Alright, just wait for the projector to wake up. So, hello everybody. You've been listening to people talking for most of the day, and you are the survivors. You're the people that made it through. So, first off, just like to say thanks for attending. And as Benny already hinted, this talk is about cloud-based test labs, and specifically how we could go about creating one of those for our own use. So, first off, the obligatory disclaimer. Funny enough, I just speak on my own behalf. But the views and opinions expressed here are those of mine. I have to read that, and nobody else's. So one quick note, if you're taking notes of this, except for the speed bloggers, all the points that I'm making, even though they don't all show up on the slides, they're in the slide notes. So if you wanted to download it afterwards, you'd be able to see all that, so you don't need to furiously write something down. So last year I came here, first Brucon, and it was a brilliant event, and that's why it was really good to be able to come back this year. And I gave a talk, and it was very light-hearted in the sense that I tried to use the analogy of beer and brewing as a way to talk about cloud and cloud providers. But, you know, that trivializes what is obviously an extremely serious topic. So for 2010, I've waved goodbye to the silly stuff in presentations. It trivializes things which clearly are very important because there's lots of big companies doing it. So my pledge to you is that there won't be any gimmicks in this presentation at all, unlike last year. So, yes, it appears I can't keep even my own promises. I'm getting tired of sounding like the cloud security broken record, okay? And I'm certainly tired of the usual conversations about cloud security, and I have to confess that I have been a vocal part of that, and it's talking about all the high-level cloud security issues, because it kind of gets old really fast once you've kind of thought through it yourself and thought, okay, these are my opinions, but you know, you end up getting seen as an expert, which is always a funny word in my book. And because I run a website that happens to have a domain, cloudsecurity.org, you get contacted by a lot of people about cloud security stuff. And some of those people are reporters and they're looking for quotes. And I'm officially at the point where I'm tired of giving quotes now. That sounds, oh, listen to him at the front, tired of giving quotes. But it's you just read the same stuff because the conversation's not moving forward, yeah? At least in the popular IT press. And so therefore I wanted to change the record a bit in terms of what I'm talking about, and instead of talking about some of these high-level issues, is to actually talk about something that you and I can do with cloud computing, and with a security theme, of course. So you get quoted, you become the expert source, and I just wanted to say, again, I'm sorry, okay? So I'm just getting some apologies out of the way here, because I sat in the speaker's room last year at Brucon, and I said to myself, and I said to a couple of the other guys over there, I really don't feel comfortable giving this presentation because it's all high-level stuff, and at the end of the day, I'm a kind of hands-on guy, pretty technical. And so it's nice to actually find a project that you can put your heart and passion into that speaks to your kind of technical expressiveness as well. So with that out of the way, a quick comment. There's 3 security people. They're the guys that are in the white outfits. And this is the typical kind of reaction for security people when you talk about cloud. I couldn't get a slide of somebody rolling their eyes, but if I could have done, that would have been there as well, to really get the full... Oh, he's not going to talk about cloud, is he? Why am I making this point? Because what I seem to sense in the security community, at least the people that I know, is that we seem to have gone down the road of saying, right, well, cloud is so badly defined that it just seems like it's old stuff being brought back again. It seems like a marketing exercise. And therefore, we kind of dismiss it in one way to say, well, my company will never use that, or your company will never use that. And it means that we don't actually engage and have a proper thinking and conversation about what cloud security really means. And I'm not going to talk about cloud security in this talk, so I'll be talking about a security use case of cloud. But what I would encourage, and this slide is just an encouragement really, that if your company is talking about doing cloud stuff, don't switch off, don't disengage, or don't just write it all off, because personally I think that will be an untenable position going forward. Get involved. There's Cloud Security Alliance. I'd encourage you to get involved with them, and really kind of think through what you consider the issues are. But one of the things that I found when I'm speaking about this stuff is that people have opinions and they've never really used it, which I think is always dangerous when we're paid to give advice, often to our employers or whatever. So there's this whole thing where just people are criticizing something they've never used. Okay, you use Gmail, so that's software as a service, that's cloud. But in terms of infrastructure as a service, things like spinning up virtual machines, or using online storage, or using sort of slightly more complex things, a lot of people are making opinions about cloud without actually having used it. So yeah, cloud is coming, and I'm not here to convince you to hold the same opinion that I do, which is that I think in the next 5 years it's a pretty safe bet that we'll all be doing some level of IT with cloud, if we're not already. And therefore, it pays to, as with any technology, and cloud isn't a technology per se, it's a service model, it's important to understand this stuff. For example, when VoIP came out all those years ago, how many people kind of went home to their sort of test lab and said, I'm going to set up a VoIP server and I'm going to try out some of these handsets. I'm going to try and understand, as I go through the process of setting this stuff up, what the security issues actually are. Yeah, because it's easy to read blogs, it's easy to read somebody else's opinion, but you miss that tactile experience, which is kind of ironic when I talk about cloud, because it's very abstract, and tactile and abstract don't normally go together. But and so the question that I would ask, really, all security professionals, I ask it of myself all the time, is what are you doing to keep up? Yeah, and so with cloud, the encouragement I'm just trying to say is, if you dismiss it, you miss a learning opportunity. You don't have to be an expert on everything. Nobody is, but this is really just a small challenge to say. And we'll come to the numbers in a second. But this is just a small challenge to you, really, just to encourage you that, especially if you've got family commitments and other things, and you don't have time for doing kind of security research or testing things, Skylab is actually intended for you, because you're me. Because that's some of the challenges that I have are logistical and time, and I'm trying to create something here which is not just usable by me. It should be something that other people can use too. And so finding the time to do the research and committing yourself and switching priorities sometimes is something you need to do in order to be good at what you do. I mean, and this is everything I say it's me too, So which brings me to a generic point, which is that you have to find your droid. Okay, I'm not talking about the phone. You have to find your droid. So what is the thing? What's the project? What's the passion? What's the thing you're going to work on? And something I'd encourage you, even if you don't consider yourself very technical, or you don't consider yourself to be some kind of security rock star or something, forget all that. It's nonsense. Think about where your passion lies, and try and find that. And we'll be talking about that during the podcasters meetup if you're interested in that. So for me, I wanted to build something with cloud. So I wanted to actually get my hands more dirty, because there's one thing being quoted or writing blog posts and all the rest of it, but there was a mismatch between the amount of signal I was outputting with my mouth and the amount of doing. So I was doing it, but not as much as I wanted to. And so I thought, well, this is a good chance to really get stuck in, come up with a project idea and do something, and hopefully do something that can benefit other people, not just me. So building something seemed like something that would be good to do. Now, let's talk about friction. This is the thing that often, I'll speak for myself, stops me doing things, is friction. So, for example, if I want to test a piece of software and I need a certain setup created, a certain network, I'm going to have to make some decisions about, okay, my free hard disk space is always on the wrong machine. I never have enough RAM in that machine over there, and I'm already running a bunch of VMs, and damn, I need another one. And so the problem is that there's this infrastructure friction, and that is really the bottleneck between you and some of the ideas that you're having, executing on them, certainly for me. So what I wanted to do was try and remove some of that friction so that I could actually go and explore some of these ideas rather than just think of them and think, oh, they seem like good ideas, and not actually execute on them. So being able to execute is like pretty important in life, and I wanted to be able to do that. So so Skylab is like my meta idea. It's my idea that I hope will help other ideas that I've got. So obviously when you're giving a presentation, you can't ignore prior art. So in this case, I have to acknowledge that NASA did in fact launch a couple of Skylab satellites, and now I'm going to use a satellite analogy to reference some cloud pieces, because what we've got there is a multiple docking adapter, okay? In the sense of your own cloud, if you had a cloud, you'd want to be able to interface with different cloud providers. You don't want to be married to a single cloud provider. You need something that can talk to different ones, and you don't really want to have to speak a different language or different API each time you want to talk to a cloud provider. Then there's the airlock module, which means that you need some operational security. So you want to make sure that your test lab is truly a test lab and not a torrent sharing site or whatever else it might be. And because cloud is pay-as-you-go, you definitely don't want it to be a torrent sharing site, because then you're paying for all the transmissions. So, and then we've got at the top there's the telescope mount. And if I think about test labs, I'm thinking about visibility. I'm thinking I want to be able to see what's going on. So in my case, a test lab is great for things like testing pen test tools, testing exploit code, and doing forensics as well. And one of the things that I bang on about with the guys that I work with is, that when we test stuff, we need to understand, every action has a reaction. So what is the visible sign of what we're doing? So is it, for example, if you run an exploit against a target, it might be that the CPU spikes briefly, and therefore when you're going to run that attack in the field, first of all, you're probably not going to run that attack against their super busy server that's mission critical, unless it's perhaps the last tool you've got, and then you'll say, okay, I'm taking an informed risk about what I do here, or you might talk to them and say, is there a quieter time in the day, processing workload-wise? So you need visibility when you're running tests. So you need the ability to be able to see log files in a single place. You need the ability to understand how your various machines are responding to different things. And then there's the actual workshop itself. That's where you do the experiments. And so Skylab is all about being able to do experiments. So one of the startup mantras is that you should fail as fast as you can. Yeah. So and so being able to experiment, trying to be original and do things means that you're going to fail. And failure, hopefully everybody knows that failure is actually a good thing. It's the path between kind of you and success. So you have to get all the failures out of the way. So Skylab is all about helping you fail quickly, yeah, which is a positive thing. So quick bit about motives, as already indicated. Learning, so having the opportunity to get my teeth into something and learn more about some of the different cloud services. Also getting more practical. I already gave my comment there, just doing more rather than saying more. That's generally a good thing. My home server died, so a pretty practical thing. Do I go out and buy another home server? Talk about it with the wife. The wife's like,